Have you ever felt an unexplainable pull towards something you couldn't quite name, a knowledge or wisdom that seemed to call to you from beyond the veil of everyday life? That feeling isn't random or accidental. It's the universe speaking directly to your soul. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. There are moments in life when synchronicities align so perfectly that they can't be dismissed as mere coincidence. Has this ever happened to you? Perhaps you found this video exactly when you needed it most. When something within you was yearning for deeper understanding, for reconnection with ancient wisdom that lies dormant inside your being. Throughout human history, profound knowledge has been systematically silenced, sacred texts burned, and powerful symbols buried beneath the sands of time. Yet the most extraordinary truth is that this wisdom was never truly lost. It simply went into hiding, waiting patiently for hearts ready to listen beyond the noise of our modern world. Stay with me until the end, because what I'm about to share isn't taught in conventional education. It's knowledge that resonates at a frequency many have forgotten how to hear. Deep within each of us burns an eternal flame called remembrance. From childhood, we've been conditioned to look outward for answers, to shrink our dreams to acceptable sizes, to forget the vastness of our true nature. We're taught to be practical, logical, reasonable. But what if the most important truths lie beyond reason, in the realm of inner knowing? That feeling of something missing in your life, that subtle emptiness that no material possession or achievement seems to fill. It's not a flaw or failure. It's this ancient flame of remembrance trying to illuminate what you've been programmed to forget. What you're about to discover might surprise you, because contrary to what we've been told, the most important memory isn't stored in books or temples, but in the human heart itself. This is why the ancients spoke in parables and wrote in symbols, because true wisdom must awaken from within, not be imposed from without. As you continue this journey with me, you'll begin to recognize the signs that have always been present in your life, those coincidences that weren't really coincidences, those dreams that felt more real than reality, those intuitive moments that saved you from disaster. If these ancient wisdom teachings resonated with you, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Each new video unveils another layer of this forgotten knowledge that's been preserved across centuries, specifically for souls ready to remember. The universe doesn't work through accidents, but through callings. And right now, in this very moment, something ancient and powerful is calling you to remember. To remember who you truly are is to embark on a profound journey of inner transformation. But as you begin to awaken, you'll inevitably encounter resistance, not just from the outside world, but from within yourself. This resistance manifests as what ancient wisdom traditions call the guardian of silence. Silence, in its purest form, can be sacred, a space of communion with the divine. But not all silence is created equal. Sometimes what we experience as peace is actually suppression. The silence that pervades our modern lives often isn't tranquility, but an invisible wall that stifles our authentic voice, turning our deepest questions into fears. Behind this wall stands an ancient figure, shadowy and persistent, the guardian of silence. This guardian doesn't need chains or weapons to maintain control. Its power is far more subtle and penetrating. It whispers doubts directly into your mind. Don't speak up, don't question, don't remember who you really are. The guardian doesn't shout, it simply suggests. It doesn't threaten with violence, but with something far more potent, the fear of rejection, ridicule, or standing alone. Think of those moments when you had a profound insight or question burning inside you, but something held you back from expressing it. That hesitation wasn't random. It was the guardian at work. For generations, this pattern has repeated itself. In schools, we learn to raise our hands before speaking. In families, certain topics remained off-limits. In society, unwritten rules dictated which thoughts were acceptable to voice. Over time, these external restrictions became internalized mindsets, invisible prisons we carry within. The most powerful revelation on this path of awakening is discovering that your voice holds more power than you've been led to believe. The truth vibrates at a frequency that dissolves illusion. When you speak authentically, even if your voice trembles, even if the words come out imperfectly, something extraordinary happens. The guardian of silence begins to fade. This isn't metaphorical, it's an energetic reality. The vibration of authentic expression cannot coexist with the density of suppression. A single phrase, spoken with clear intention from the heart, can collapse centuries of imposed silence. The guardians that have ruled human consciousness for millennia cannot withstand the simple power of your truth. Ancient civilizations understood this hidden truth. This is why they passed knowledge through sound, through mantras, chants, and sacred words. They knew that vibration breaks walls more effectively than any physical force. The voice doesn't just communicate, it creates, it transforms, it liberates. Try this simple exercise. Place your hand on your throat and quietly say, "I free my voice." Repeat it gently until you feel a tingling sensation move through your body. What you're experiencing isn't suggestion but energy shifting, your frequency awakening after years of suppression. Each word you speak becomes a key. Some keys unlock memories, others dismantle walls. When you choose silence out of fear, you hand those keys to the guardian. But when you speak your truth, even if no one is listening, even if you only whisper it to the wind, you reclaim your sacred right. The guardian of silence feeds on your forgotten words, the dreams you never named, the ideas you didn't share, the feelings you concealed. But these unspoken truths never truly disappear. They wait patiently within you, seeds of potential seeking the light of expression. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring how this ancient understanding connects to the language of symbols, how the universe itself communicates through patterns and signs that our ancestors could read as clearly as we read text. This symbolic language remains available to us today, if only we remember how to perceive it. If something in this message has awakened a recognition within you, write in the comments, "I reclaim my voice." Let's see how many of us are ready to break the imposed silence together. The language of symbols forms the foundation of how the universe communicates with us, a revelation that can completely transform your perception of reality. Long before written alphabets existed, humans understood that creation speaks not through sentences, but through patterns, signs, and synchronicities that reveal themselves to those who develop the capacity to perceive them. Look up at the night sky. The stars aren't randomly scattered. They form constellations that tell stories. Rivers don't flow in straight lines. They meander like liquid calligraphy across the landscape. Mountains don't simply rise from the earth. They create profiles that mirror human faces or animals when viewed from certain angles. These aren't coincidences, but revelations, a cosmic language written into a fabric of existence itself. The modern mindset has conditioned us to seek meaning only in what's printed on screens or pages, in laws written by authorities, in words that change with the times. But this approach has hidden the original text, the one that remains constant beneath all human interpretations. Every leaf, every stone, every shadow cast by light is part of this primordial communication system, coded messages waiting for those with eyes to see. When you pass a particular bird 3 times in one day, when you repeatedly encounter the same number sequence, when you dream of an animal that then crosses your path. These aren't random events, but messages addressed specifically to you. The universe speaks in whispers, not shouts, and its language requires not analysis, but recognition. This understanding leads to a profound mindset shift. Suddenly, seemingly disconnected moments reveal themselves as meaningful patterns. What appears as chaos transforms into coherent narrative. The journey becomes one of decoding rather than merely experiencing, a continuous revelation of hidden truth. Consider how ancient cultures lived this understanding. Egyptian hieroglyphs weren't simply a writing system, but energetic keys. Andean weavers encoded celestial maps in their textiles. Chinese scholars observed crack patterns in heated turtle shells to divine cosmic intentions. All were reading the same universal language, though through different dialects. Symbols serve as bridges, connecting the visible with the invisible, the ordinary with the eternal. They don't simply represent reality, they participate in it. A spiral isn't just a shape, it's the pattern of galaxies, the structure of DNA, the growth pattern of shells. When you recognize these connections, you're not just observing similarities, you're perceiving the underlying unity of creation. The most powerful impact of understanding symbolic language comes when you realize that coincidences don't exist. That book that fell from the shelf, opening to exactly the passage you needed to read, the person who called just as you were thinking about them, the song that played with lyrics perfectly describing your current situation. These aren't random events, but meaningful communications, personal messages delivered through the cosmic postal system. To begin reading these messages, trust your intuition rather than analysis. When you encounter a symbol, whether a feather on your path, a repeating dream image, or a chance meeting, ask yourself, what does this mean to me? The first response that arises from within contains more wisdom than any external interpretation. As you develop this capacity, the world transforms from a series of isolated occurrences into a living text, a divine script continuously unfolding before your eyes. You begin to recognize that every moment carries significance, every encounter offers guidance, every experience contains wisdom if you know how to read it. This symbolic awareness doesn't remove you from practical reality, it enhances it. Scientists making breakthroughs often describe how the solution came not through linear thinking, but through symbolic understanding. Einstein visualized riding on a beam of light. Kekulé dreamed of a snake biting its tail before discovering the ring structure of benzene. Let's now explore how names themselves carry power, how the sounds we use to identify ourselves and our world are far more than convenient labels but vibrational keys that unlock dimensions of being and understanding. If you've ever experienced a moment where a symbol seemed to speak directly to you, write in the comments, "I see the signs." Let's discover how many of us are already fluent in this universal language. Names carry a profound power that extends far beyond conventional understanding. In our modern world, we've reduced names to mere convenience, labels assigned for practical identification. But the ancient wisdom reveals a deeper truth. A name is a vibrational key, an energetic signature, a frequency that resonates throughout the cosmos. When you pronounce a name, you're not simply making sounds. You're invoking the essence of what you name, calling it forth into manifestation. This revelation explains why ancient traditions approach naming with sacred reverence. In Hebrew mysticism, the true name of God was considered so powerful it could not be spoken aloud. Egyptian pharaohs received secret names during coronation ceremonies that connected them to divine authority. Native shamans bestowed spirit names that aligned individuals with their sole purpose. These weren't superstitious rituals, but practical applications of a profound understanding. Whoever knows a true name holds power over what is named. Think about your own experience with names. Consider how differently you feel when someone speaks your name with love versus contempt. The letters haven't changed, but the intention, the energy infused into those sounds, creates an entirely different impact. Your name acts as a doorway through which energy enters your field. Every time you're called by your name, it reinforces your identity, for better or worse. Many people carry the weight of names that were spoken with criticism or disappointment throughout childhood. These negative vibrations can become embedded in your energetic signature, creating patterns that persist until consciously transformed. Join our community of seekers by subscribing to this channel. Together, we're rediscovering timeless truths that have been waiting patiently for the right moment to reawaken in human consciousness. The power extends beyond personal names. The words you use to name your experiences shape your entire reality. Call a challenge a disaster, and you infuse it with catastrophic energy. Name it an opportunity, and you activate potential for growth. This isn't positive thinking. It's vibrational reality crafting. The act of naming is perhaps the most fundamental creative power humans possess. Behind the scenes of your everyday identity exists an even more profound revelation. Each human carries a hidden name, a soul name that wasn't chosen by parents or recorded on any document. This name represents your authentic essence, the vibrational signature of your soul's purpose and true nature. Unlike your given name, which may or may not align with your essence, your soul name is a perfect reflection of who you truly are. Some traditions speak of receiving this name during deep meditation or vision quests. Others describe discovering it in dreams or during profound moments of clarity. However it reveals itself, your soul name acts as a tuning fork. When you connect with it, everything in your being aligns with your highest purpose. It's the sound that your spirit makes when perfectly in harmony with the universe. You've likely had glimpses of this connection, moments when you felt completely authentic, when your actions flowed effortlessly from your being, when you experienced a profound sense of rightness about who you are. In these moments, you were vibrating in alignment with your soul name, even if you couldn't articulate it. The journey to discover your soul name is deeply personal. It doesn't typically arrive through intellectual seeking, but through inner listening. Sometimes it's not even a word in any human language, but a feeling, a tone, a vibration that resonates in your heart when you approach truth. When you connect with this inner signature, you experience a recognition, not of something new, but of something you've always known at the deepest level. This understanding transforms how you relate to your identity. Your given name becomes a vessel rather than a definition, a container that can either amplify or diminish your connection to your true essence. By consciously infusing your everyday name with the energy of your soul name, you begin a powerful process of authentic alignment. Consider taking a moment each morning to speak your own name with conscious reverence, not as a label, but as an invocation of your highest self. Notice how differently you feel when you approach your name as a sacred sound rather than a routine identifier. This simple practice can initiate a profound shift in how you experience your own identity. Let's explore now how this understanding of names connects to the shadow aspects of ourselves, those parts we've denied, repressed, or forgotten. For just as we carry light, we also carry darkness, and acknowledging both is essential for wholeness. If you've ever felt that your given name doesn't fully capture who you really are, write in the comments, "I am more than my name." Let's discover how many of us sense that deeper identity beneath our everyday labels. The journey toward wholeness requires a fundamental revelation that many spiritual traditions have carefully preserved. There is no path to the light without first crossing through shadow. This truth challenges our modern tendency to pursue only positivity while avoiding uncomfortable aspects of ourselves. But authentic transformation demands we confront what we've hidden, not just from others, but from ourselves. Shadow isn't what conventional wisdom suggests. It isn't evil, demonic, or a mistake to be corrected. Rather, it's the mirror reflecting forgotten fragments of your authentic self. These are the parts deemed unacceptable, sometimes by society, sometimes by family, sometimes by your own judgments. Your anger, your sexuality, your ambition, your grief, your wildness, whatever aspects of yourself you've been conditioned to hide or deny. The profound paradox of personal development is this: what you reject doesn't disappear. It governs you from darkness. The emotions you refuse to feel emerge as unexpected outbursts. The desires you repress manifest as self-sabotage. The traits you criticize most harshly in others are often disowned aspects of yourself, projected outward. The shadow creates a hidden infrastructure beneath your conscious decisions, influencing your life in ways you don't recognize. Consider those moments when you've reacted with disproportionate intensity to someone else's behavior. That triggering often reveals not their flaw, but your shadow. Some aspect of yourself you've banished to the unconscious realms. The revelation waiting behind every trigger is a part of yourself asking to be acknowledged. Ancient wisdom traditions encoded this understanding in their initiation rites. Egyptian mystical traditions included journeys through symbolic underworlds. Greek mysteries featured confrontations with chthonic deities. Shamanic initiations worldwide involve symbolic death and dismemberment. These weren't primitive superstitions, but sophisticated psycho-spiritual technologies designed to facilitate the integration of shadow elements. The shadow path isn't comfortable, it's transformative. Walking it means facing wounds you thought were healed, examining the masks you wear, and recognizing that your self-image is incomplete. It will challenge your most fundamental assumptions about who you are. This discomfort isn't punishment, but necessary friction, the resistance that builds strength. Like a muscle needs tension to grow, your consciousness needs the challenge of shadow work to expand. What makes this journey particularly demanding is its confrontation with duality. We want to believe we're fundamentally good, kind, loving beings who occasionally make mistakes. The shadow reveals a more complex truth. You're neither purely light nor purely darkness. You are totality. You contain creativity and destruction, compassion and rage, wisdom and foolishness. This recognition often triggers an identity crisis that precedes authentic integration. Engaging shadow work isn't about indulging destructive impulses, but transforming their energy. Anger acknowledged becomes boundary-setting strength. Grief embraced becomes profound compassion. Fear recognized becomes discernment. The shadow contains not just your darkness, but your disowned power, the very aspects of yourself needed for wholeness. A powerful practice for beginning this work involves simply sitting with an emotion you typically avoid. Rather than analyzing or trying to change it, observe it with curiosity. Where do you feel it in your body? What memories arise with it? What does it want to communicate? This compassionate witnessing begins dissolving the barriers between conscious and unconscious aspects of yourself. Remember that integration doesn't mean eliminating aspects of yourself. It means bringing them into relationship with your whole being. The shadow integrated doesn't disappear. It becomes an ally rather than a saboteur. What was once unconscious becomes conscious. What was reactive becomes responsive. What was weakness becomes strength. This journey of integration reveals perhaps the most liberating insight of all. Authenticity isn't achieved by becoming more perfect. It emerges when you become more whole. The parts of yourself you've been hiding often contain precisely the medicine others need. Your vulnerability becomes your greatest offering. Your unique combination of light and shadow is your gift to the world. Let's explore now how our connection to ancestral wisdom plays a crucial role in this integration process. How the voices of those who came before us continue to echo through our DNA, offering guidance for our journey toward wholeness. If you've ever felt the call to embrace parts of yourself you've been hiding, write in the comments, "I embrace my shadow." Let's acknowledge together that wholeness requires accepting all aspects of who we are. Our journey toward wholeness extends beyond our individual existence. The profound truth waiting to be rediscovered is that we never walk alone. Though invisible to ordinary sight, countless generations walk beside us, their wisdom, struggles, and triumphs woven into the very fabric of our being. This ancestral connection isn't metaphorical or symbolic. It's a living reality that influences every aspect of your existence. In the depths of your DNA, beyond the biological coding that science has mapped, exists an energetic imprint, a resonance field containing the lived experiences of those who came before. Their voices intertwine with your thoughts in ways so subtle you might mistake them for your own. Their footprints support yours, creating pathways of possibility that would be inaccessible if you truly walked alone. Ancient cultures understood this connection intimately. They built altars to ancestors, conducted ceremonies to honor their presence, and maintained unbroken lines of oral tradition to preserve their wisdom. These weren't primitive superstitions, but sophisticated technologies for maintaining conscious relationship with the invisible library of knowledge we all inherit. This invisible library resides within you, not composed of scrolls or parchments, but of living memories encoded in your cellular structure. The triumphs and failures, hopes and disappointments, loves and fears of countless predecessors form an embodied archive that influences your instincts, your talents, your inexplicable fears, and your deepest yearnings. You are, in essence, a walking library of ancestral wisdom waiting to be accessed. Have you ever felt an unexplainable pull toward a particular culture, practice, or place? Have you ever picked up a skill with surprising ease, as if your hands already knew what to do? Have you experienced dreams of places you've never visited or recognized people you've never met? These are moments when the ancestral library opens its pages to your conscious awareness. The revolution in understanding your heritage comes with recognizing that ancestral connection isn't just about honoring the past. It's about activating dormant resources for navigating your present challenges. Every obstacle you face has been encountered by countless ancestors before you. Their collective wisdom forms an invisible support system you can learn to access consciously. This connection works in both directions. Just as you carry their legacy, your choices impact the future generations who will carry yours. This perspective transforms everyday decisions into sacred acts. You're not just living for yourself, but contributing to an intergenerational journey of healing and evolution. What you resolve doesn't need to be repeated. What you heal creates new possibilities for those who follow. Behind the veil of ordinary perception, your ancestors stand as guides and guardians, not to control your path, but to illuminate possibilities based on their lived experience. The Japanese concept of ikigai, finding your life's purpose, takes on deeper meaning when you recognize that your unique gifts often represent ancestral talents seeking expression through you. Your intuitive pulls towards certain work, creative expressions, or service paths may be ancestral callings awaiting your response. The hidden truth about inherited trauma also becomes clearer through this understanding. Patterns of fear, addiction, or relationship difficulties that seem to repeat across generations aren't merely psychological. They represent unresolved energetic imprints seeking resolution. When you heal these patterns consciously, you don't just transform your life, but affect the entire lineage, past and future. A powerful practice for connecting with this invisible library involves creating a quiet space where you can imagine your ancestors standing behind you in a long line extending beyond sight. Feel their presence supporting you. Ask for their wisdom regarding a current challenge. Then simply listen, not with your physical ears, but with your heart. The insights that emerge often carry a distinctive quality, a sense of ancient knowing that transcends your personal experience. This ancestral connection doesn't replace your individual identity, but enriches it with depth and context. You're not just a solitary being navigating life alone, but a continuation of a vast human story, a unique expression of countless experience. Let's explore now how pain itself serves as a catalyst for transformation, how what appears to be our greatest burden often becomes the doorway to our deepest wisdom and strength. If you've ever felt the unexplainable presence of ancestral wisdom guiding you, write in the comments, "My ancestors walk with me." Let's acknowledge together the invisible support system that has always been with us. Pain is perhaps the most misunderstood teacher in human experience, a language no one desires to learn, yet everyone eventually speaks fluently. The modern world offers countless strategies to numb, avoid, or escape suffering. Medications, distractions, substances, endless entertainment. Yet the ancient wisdom traditions share a revolutionary perspective. Pain isn't something to merely endure or eliminate. It's a powerful catalyst for profound transformation. This understanding mirrors the alchemist's greatest work, not creating gold from lead for material wealth, but transmuting the lead of suffering into the gold of wisdom, compassion, and spiritual strength. The soul undergoes a similar process when it fully embraces pain rather than resisting it. This inner alchemy doesn't happen automatically. It requires conscious engagement with your suffering. Imagine a crucible in which metals are melted. The fire seems cruel, the breaking down of form appears destructive, but in this dissolution, something purer emerges. Your life experiences a similar process. When grief arrives, when betrayal cuts, when illness challenges, these moments break down your familiar forms. What felt solid, your identity, beliefs, expectations, melts in the heat of crisis. But from this breaking down, something essential emerges. The transformation begins when you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and instead ask, "What is this teaching me?" This subtle shift in perspective initiates the alchemical process. Pain stops being punishment and becomes initiation. It's no longer enemy, but messenger carrying wisdom that couldn't arrive any other way. Consider your most significant moments of growth. Weren't they often preceded by periods of intense challenge? The relationship that ended painfully revealed what you truly value in partnership. The career setback illuminated your authentic calling. The health crisis awakened appreciation for the miracle of everyday existence. These weren't coincidences, but demonstrations of pain's transformative impact when consciously received. Pain holds another secret. It opens portals of compassion unavailable through intellectual understanding alone. When you've wept deeply, you recognize the quality of another's tears. When your heart is broken, you perceive the subtle, trembling in another's voice that others might miss. When you've walked through darkness, you develop night vision that allows you to guide others through similar terrain. This compassion, born from personal suffering, creates connections far more powerful than any superficial joy or shared success. Two strangers who've endured similar losses can recognize each other instantly, communicating volumes in a glance that others couldn't understand. This recognition transcends cultural barriers, economic differences, and intellectual disagreements. It's soul recognizing soul through the shared language of transformation. The paradox of pain's alchemy is that what initially feels like isolation ultimately creates the deepest belonging. In your most private suffering, you unconsciously join an ancient fellowship of those who have walked similar paths. Every tear connects you to the river of human experience flowing through all times and cultures. Ancient mystery schools incorporated this. Understanding into their initiation rituals, the candidate would undergo symbolic death, dismemberment, or intense challenge, not as punishment, but as necessary preparation for receiving higher wisdom. These traditions recognize that certain revelations can only be metabolized by a consciousness that has been broken open and reconstructed. The modern mindset sees breaking as failure, but the wisdom traditions understand it as breakthrough. The Japanese art of kintsugi, repairing broken pottery with gold, embodies this philosophy perfectly. The broken vessel isn't disguised or discarded, but mended in a way that highlights its cracks, creating something more beautiful and valuable than the original unbroken piece. Your wounds can undergo the same transformation. When you stop hiding them or being defined by them and instead integrate them consciously, they become your unique medicine. The very experiences that once felt like your greatest weaknesses become your greatest contributions to others. This doesn't happen through positive thinking, but through the courageous work of allowing pain to complete its alchemical process. This perspective doesn't glorify suffering or suggest seeking it out. Rather, it acknowledges that when pain inevitably arrives, you have a choice in how to meet it. You can resist, becoming bitter and contracted, or you can surrender, allowing it to reshape you into something more authentic, compassionate, and wise than you could have become any other way. Let's explore how our dreams, both sleeping and waking, serve as another dimension of this transformative journey, offering guidance and revelation that our conscious minds often cannot access alone. If pain has been a powerful teacher in your life, transforming you in unexpected ways, write in the comments, "Pain transformed me." Let's acknowledge together how suffering, when consciously embraced, becomes the crucible of our deepest wisdom. Dreams represent one of humanity's most profound yet misunderstood gateways to hidden wisdom. In our hyper-rational modern mindset, we've reduced them to random neural firings, meaningless fragments of daily processing, or at best, the brain's housekeeping system. But ancient traditions worldwide recognize dreams as something far more significant, a dimensional doorway where the soul travels beyond ordinary constraints of time, space, and identity. Each night when you surrender to sleep, you're not simply shutting down consciousness, but shifting into a different state of awareness. The dream realm isn't emptiness or mere biological pause. It's a vibrant landscape where your essence moves freely, where ancestors can reach you, where forgotten memories resurface, and where the divine communicates through a language of symbols and emotions. The boundary between your individual consciousness and the collective field thins, allowing for revelations impossible during waking hours. Indigenous cultures worldwide developed sophisticated dream practices. The Australian Aboriginal concept of dream time recognizes dreams as connection to ancestral wisdom. Tibetan Buddhists practiced lucid dreaming as spiritual training. Ancient Egyptians built dream temples where the sick would sleep to receive healing guidance. These weren't primitive superstitions, but sophisticated technologies for accessing transformative insights beyond rational thinking. Dreams speak in coded messages, a symbolic language that bypasses your logical defenses. This encryption isn't meant to confuse, but to deliver truth in its purest form, unfiltered by your conscious mind's limitations and preconceptions. The dream realm communicates through metaphor, allowing complex understandings to be transmitted instantaneously rather than sequentially. In this symbolic landscape, a serpent isn't merely a reptile, but might represent transformation, healing, primal energy, or ancient wisdom. Flying doesn't simply indicate a fantasy of escaping gravity, but can reveal your soul's yearning for liberation, perspective, or transcendence. Water often reflects emotional states. Houses frequently symbolize aspects of your identity. These aren't arbitrary associations, but archetypal patterns recognized across cultures and throughout history. The revolutionary understanding about dreams is that they're not primarily about escaping reality, but about integrating deeper truths into your waking life. Dreams reveal what you're not seeing, what you've forgotten, what you're avoiding, or what's emerging in your consciousness. They provide access to your blind spots and untapped potential in ways your thinking mind cannot. Modern psychology has glimpsed this wisdom. Carl Jung recognized dreams as messages from the unconscious, compensating for imbalances in conscious awareness. Neuroscience now confirms that during REM sleep, the brain processes emotional experiences differently, enabling new perspectives and creative solutions. What ancient wisdom traditions, understood intuitively, science is gradually rediscovering through its own methods. The breakthrough in working with dreams comes when you shift from dismissing them to actively engaging with them. Begin keeping a dream journal, recording images, emotions, and impressions immediately upon waking. Notice recurring themes, characters, or scenarios. These patterns form a personalized symbolic language reflecting your inner landscape and evolutionary edge. Pay particular attention to dreams that carry strong emotional impact or remain vivid after waking. These often contain your most significant messages. Dreams that disturb you deserve special attention, not because they're predicting disaster, but because they're highlighting aspects of your psyche requiring integration. The nightmare isn't punishment, but invitation to heal what's been denied or repressed. Behind the scenes of dreaming lies an even deeper mystery, the possibility that consciousness isn't generated by the brain, but received by it, like a television tunes into existing broadcasts. This perspective suggests that during sleep, your receptors simply tune to different frequencies of awareness. Dreams may be glimpses into realms that exist independently of your individual mind, parallel dimensions, collective consciousness, or spiritual planes accessible when the analytical mind's filters relax. This understanding transforms how you approach sleep itself. Rather than viewing it merely as physical restoration, recognize it as a spiritual practice, a daily opportunity for revelation, healing, and connection with deeper wisdom. Before sleeping, set an intention to remember your dreams and receive guidance. This simple practice begins opening channels of communication with your deeper knowing. Let's now examine how our relationship with time itself shapes our perception of reality, how what appears linear and fixed is actually far more fluid and malleable than we've been taught to believe. If you've ever received meaningful guidance through a dream that later proved significant in your waking life, write in the comments, "Dreams guide me." Let's discover how many of us are already receiving wisdom through this ancient channel of communication. Time represents one of humanity's most profound enigmas, an invisible river flowing around us that we can neither touch, stop, nor see with our eyes. We measure it with clocks, segment it into calendars, and organize our entire existence around it. Yet its true nature remains elusive. For millennia, philosophers, mystics, and now quantum physicists have grappled with this mystery, each approaching it from different angles, but all recognizing its fundamental importance to human experience. Ancient cultures understood time very differently than we do today. For them, time wasn't a linear progression marching relentlessly forward, but rather a cyclical dance of recurring patterns. They observed how day follows night, how seasons cycle through their eternal round, how life emerges from death and returns again. The Mayan calendar, the Chinese I Ching, Hindu cosmology, All incorporated this cyclical understanding where nothing truly ends, but rather transforms into new beginnings. Modern humanity, by contrast, has become obsessed with the mechanical measuring of time. We've fragmented it into ever smaller units, milliseconds, nanoseconds, creating the illusion that time is a fixed, objective reality that exists independently of our perception. This mindset has transformed time from sacred mystery into commodity, something to be saved, spent, wasted, or invested as though it were currency. Time is money, we say, revealing how deeply we've internalized this mechanistic perspective. Yet our lived experience repeatedly contradicts this rigid view. Haven't you noticed how time behaves differently depending on your internal state? When you're deeply engaged in meaningful activity, hours can pass like minutes. When suffering through something unpleasant, minutes stretch into what feels like hours. During profound moments of connection or creativity, time seems to stop altogether, creating islands of timelessness within the temporal flow. This subjective experience reveals a revolutionary insight. Time isn't primarily an external force, but an internal mirror reflecting the quality of your consciousness. It expands and contracts according to your attention, your emotion, your level of presence. This understanding liberates you from being time's victim and positions you as its co-creator. The mindset shift isn't about managing time better, but about transforming your relationship with it entirely. Quantum physics has begun confirming what mystics have claimed for centuries, that time isn't the absolute independent reality Newton described, but something far more fluid and observer-dependent. At the quantum level, particles appear to communicate instantaneously across vast distances, challenging our conventional understanding of temporal limitations. Some theories suggest that all moments exist simultaneously in a vast now, and it's only our consciousness that experiences them sequentially. Consider how a dream can contain what seems like hours of experience within minutes of actual sleep time, or how during life-threatening situations, perception slows dramatically as consciousness expands to process information at accelerated rates. These aren't anomalies, but glimpses into time's more flexible nature, opportunities to witness reality beyond our conditioned perception. The hidden truth about time is that while you cannot control its passage in the conventional sense, you can profoundly alter your experience of it through the quality of your attention. When you're fully present, time transforms from tyrant to teacher. Each moment becomes not a tick on a relentless clock, but a doorway into depth, into meaning, into the eternal now that exists beneath temporal flow. Ancient spiritual practices across traditions recognize this possibility and develop technologies for transcending ordinary time perception. Meditation, contemplative prayer, sacred dance, and ritual all create altered states where time's grip loosens. In these states, practitioners report accessing insights that seem to originate from beyond the timeline, wisdom that feels simultaneously ancient and immediate, personal and universal. This perspective invites a fundamental reorientation to life's journey. Rather than racing against time, constantly feeling its pressure, you can learn to dance with it, sometimes moving quickly, sometimes slowly, but always with awareness. The question shifts from, how can I get more done in less time, to, how can I infuse more presence, more meaning, more aliveness into each moment I'm given? Perhaps the greatest revelation about time is that the present moment, this exact now, is the only point where transformation is possible. The past exists as memory, the future as anticipation, but your power to choose, to change, to awaken exists exclusively in this moment. This understanding doesn't diminish planning or learning from history, but places them in proper relationship to the primacy of now. Let's explore how nature itself offers a profound teacher for this timeless awareness. how the rhythms and patterns of the natural world reveal a different way of being that our technological society has largely forgotten. If you've experienced those moments when time seemed to stand still during your most meaningful experiences, write in the comments, "I've touched the timeless." Let's acknowledge together those glimpses beyond ordinary time perception that remind us of a deeper reality. Nature stands as humanity's first and most enduring teacher, a living cathedral that existed long before we built temples of stone or recorded wisdom in written language. In our rush toward technological advancement and urban development, we've often forgotten that each tree, river, and mountain isn't merely scenery, but a column of a vast living sanctuary. Within this sanctuary vibrates a music so subtle that few in our noise-filled world pause long enough to hear it, an eternal song that connects all living beings in a symphony more complex and harmonious than anything human composed. This perspective isn't poetic metaphor, but practical wisdom. Indigenous cultures worldwide recognize nature not as resource to exploit, but as elder to honor. They understood that the natural world operates according to principles of balance, sustainability, and interconnection that human societies would be wise to emulate. The revelation waiting in nature isn't primitive or simplistic. It's sophisticated and profound, offering blueprints for everything from architectural design to community organization to personal transformation. Each element of the natural world embodies specific wisdom when we learn to perceive it. The tree teaches patience, growing steadily toward the light without rushing, extending roots as deeply as branches, weathering seasons of abundance and scarcity with equal resilience. A tree doesn't question its purpose or compare itself to others. It simply fulfills its nature in the place where it stands. This silent teaching offers a powerful antidote to our culture of instant gratification and constant striving. The river demonstrates detachment and adaptability, flowing around obstacles rather than fighting them, carving paths of least resistance while maintaining its essential nature. Water doesn't cling to any particular form, but transforms readily from solid to liquid to vapor, while remaining fundamentally itself. This fluidity reveals how attachment to fixed identity creates unnecessary suffering, a lesson echoed in spiritual traditions worldwide, but demonstrated daily in every flowing stream. The sun exemplifies unconditional generosity, shining equally on all without discrimination, asking nothing in return, offering its light to worthy and unworthy alike. It doesn't withhold warmth from those who fail to appreciate it or shine more brightly for those who offer praise. This impartial giving challenges our transactional mindset where everything must be earned or deserved, suggesting instead that our greatest fulfillment might come through giving without expectation. Even in decay and death, nature teaches powerful lessons about renewal. The fallen tree becomes nursery for new growth. The predator's kill nourishes multiple species. Nothing is truly lost, only transformed. This continuous recycling offers a revolutionary framework for understanding our own mortality, not as endpoint, but as transition within a larger continuity. The breakthrough in our relationship with nature comes when we move beyond romantic selves as expressions of the same creative force. You are not separate from nature. You are nature becoming aware of itself through human consciousness. Your body follows the same rhythms as the wider world. Circadian cycles, seasonal shifts, the great inhale and exhale of birth and death. This recognition dissolves the illusory boundary between natural and human worlds, revealing them as one integrated reality. Modern science increasingly confirms these ancient insights. Biomimicry, the practice of emulating nature's time-tested patterns in human design, has revolutionized fields from medicine to architecture. Forest bathing, Shinrin-yoku, has demonstrated measurable effects on stress hormones, immune function, and mood regulation. Even exposure to soil bacteria has been shown to influence neurotransmitter production. These aren't mystical claims, but documented biological responses to reconnection with our evolutionary home. The most powerful transformation occurs when we approach nature not merely as resource or even teacher, but as relationship. Indigenous traditions worldwide maintain practices of asking permission before harvesting plants, offering gratitude to animals taken for food, and treating natural features as sentient beings worthy of respect and reciprocity. This relational approach stands in stark contrast to the extractive mindset that has dominated modern industrial society, offering a vital paradigm shift at a time of ecological crisis. The journey toward this deeper relationship begins with simple attention. When you pause to really observe a plant growing through concrete, when you listen to bird conversations with genuine curiosity, when you feel the subtle differences between types of rainfall, you're developing a literacy that modern education rarely cultivates, but that may prove essential for our collective future. Let's explore how this external relationship with nature reflects and amplifies our internal landscape, how cultivating our inner fire becomes both personal practice and universal contribution. If you've ever received a profound insight or healing from time spent in nature, write in the comments, "Nature speaks to me." Let's recognize together this ancient language that continues to offer wisdom when we remember how to listen. Deep within every human being burns an invisible spark, a force so subtle many go through life without fully acknowledging its presence, yet so powerful it shapes our entire existence. This is the inner fire, not a physical flame, but a spiritual essence that connects us directly to the eternal. This sacred fire is what pushes you to rise when circumstances suggest surrender, what ignites creativity when convention demands conformity, what sparks courage when fear seems rational, and what kindles hope during the darkest nights of your journey. Ancient traditions worldwide recognize this inner flame. The Romans spoke of genius, not intellectual capacity, but a guiding spirit. Hindu teachings describe tapas, the inner heat that transforms consciousness. Aboriginal Dreamtime stories tell of carrying sacred embers across vast distances. These weren't merely cultural metaphors, but attempts to describe a universal human experience, the felt sense of an inner power source that transcends ordinary explanation. This fire doesn't originate from education, social position, or external validation. It exists independently of circumstances, burning just as brightly in those facing profound adversity as in those blessed with abundance. In fact, the flame often reveals itself most clearly during moments of crisis, when external supports fall away, revealing the unconditioned strength that was always present beneath acquired identities and roles. The revolutionary insight about this inner fire lies in its dual nature. Like physical fire, it holds tremendous creative potential, but also destructive capability. When channeled toward compassion, wisdom, and love, it becomes illumination, guiding not just your own path, but lighting the way for others. When fed by selfishness, anger, or resentment, it becomes a consuming flame that damages yourself and those around you. The quality of your life largely depends on which aspect of the fire you cultivate. This understanding transforms spiritual development from an abstract concept into practical, energetic management. The task isn't to extinguish the fire. Attempts to deny this force only drive it underground, where it smolders uncontrolled. Rather, the journey involves learning to direct it skillfully, to channel its tremendous power toward creation rather than destruction. Behind the scenes of every significant human achievement, artistic masterpieces, scientific breakthroughs, social movements, acts of extraordinary courage, burns this same fire. The difference between visionaries and others isn't the presence of the flame, but their relationship with it. They've learned to work with their inner fire rather than being worked by it, to direct its power rather than being consumed by it. Many modern challenges, from burnout to addiction to destructive conflict, reflect not the absence of this fire, but its misdirection. When denied healthy expression, this energy doesn't disappear, but emerges sideways, as restlessness, self-sabotage, or aggression. The mindset shift from suppressing or indulging this force to consciously directing it creates a foundation for authentic power and purpose. The journey of working with your inner fire begins with simple recognition. Take a moment to recall instances when you felt most alive, most passionate, most unequivocally yourself. In those moments, you were experiencing your inner fire in its natural state. Notice how different this feels from both passive contentment and destructive anger. It carries a distinctive quality of focused aliveness, of energized clarity. Ancient firekeepers understood that flames require both fuel and space. Too much fuel without sufficient oxygen smothers the fire. Too much space without adequate fuel allows it to die out. Your inner fire follows similar principles. It needs proper nourishment, meaningful challenges, creative expression, purpose-driven action, but also sufficient space, moments of stillness, reflection, and restoration. The balance between engagement and retreat creates sustainable inner heat rather than sporadic flaring followed by burnout. Practical disciplines for working with this energy exist across traditions. Meditation practices that gather and direct internal energy, martial arts that channel it through the body, creative expressions that transform it into visible form. These aren't merely activities, but technologies for fire management, systematic approaches to cultivating and directing your most essential resource. The deepest revelation arrives when you recognize that your inner fire isn't separate from the universal creative force, but a personalized expression of it. The same energy that ignites stars and animates ecosystems burns within you as your unique contribution to the cosmic pattern. This perspective transforms how you view your talents, passions, and purpose, not as personal possessions, but as sacred responsibilities, flames entrusted to your particular stewardship. Let's explore how silence itself serves as both complement and catalyst to this inner fire. How the practice of stillness creates the essential space in which your authentic power can fully emerge and express itself. If you've ever felt that unmistakable inner flame pushing you forward when everything logical suggested giving up, write in the comments, "My inner fire guides me." Let's acknowledge together this essential force that transcends circumstance and logic to reveal our deepest capabilities. In our modern world, silence has become one of the rarest commodities, more precious than gold yet treated as worthless, more necessary than ever yet systematically eliminated from daily experience. We live surrounded by constant noise, not just auditory but digital, visual, informational, emotional. Notifications demand attention, news cycles create urgency, entertainment fills every potential gap. This cacophony isn't merely external, it manifests internally as mental chatter, rumination, and the relentless voice of the inner critic. What makes this pattern particularly revealing is our collective response to moments of silence when they do arise. Rather than welcoming them as respite, many experience profound discomfort, reaching immediately for phones, turning on background music, initiating conversation, anything to fill the perceived void. This reflexive avoidance reveals a deeper truth. We flee from silence as if it were emptiness, as if danger hid in its calm waters, as if something essential might be revealed in its depths that we're not prepared to face. This perspective represents a fundamental misunderstanding of silence's true nature. Silence isn't absence, it's presence. It's not emptiness, but fullness. Not the lack of something, but the emergence of what's most essential. Silence is a language older than words, a dimension of experience that existed before human speech and will remain when all our conversations have ended. It's the original context within which all sound, all communication, all expression takes place. Consider the space between musical notes. Without these precise silences, music would collapse into noise. The pauses aren't empty, they're structural, integral to the composition's beauty and meaning. Similarly, the white space surrounding text on a page isn't wasted. It's what makes the words legible. These analogies point toward a revolutionary understanding. Silence isn't what remains when everything valuable is removed, but the necessary foundation that makes meaning possible. The wisdom traditions across cultures recognize silence not as passive absence, but as active presence. Desert fathers and mothers of early Christianity sought silence in remote locations not to escape the world, but to encounter a deeper reality. Zen practitioners cultivate mu, the empty mind that paradoxically contains all possibilities. Indigenous vision quests incorporate extended periods of silence as gateways to revelation rather than barriers to it. These diverse approaches converge on a single insight. Whoever doesn't learn to listen to silence cannot hear the universe's voice. The transformative impact of embracing silence manifests in multiple dimensions of experience. Externally, it creates space for genuine listening, not merely waiting for your turn to speak, but fully receiving another's communication without immediately filtering it through your own agenda or response. Behind the scenes of meaningful connection, silence operates as the invisible facilitator of authentic understanding. Internally, silence offers the rare opportunity to differentiate between the authentic voice of your deepest wisdom and the countless acquired voices that masquerade as your own. Parental injunctions, societal expectations, media messaging, peer pressures. Most of what we consider our and thoughts are actually recycled external inputs. Only in silence can you begin to discern which voice is truly yours and which belongs to someone or something else. Creatively, silence functions as the wellspring of original insight. Notice how breakthrough ideas rarely arrive during active thinking, but in moments of mental quietude, during walks, showers, or upon waking. This isn't coincidence, but demonstration of silence's generative power. When the mind's constant commentary pauses, something beyond ordinary consciousness can emerge. Intuition, inspiration, revelation. Spiritually, silence creates the essential condition for connection with whatever you consider sacred or transcendent. Whether you conceptualize this as God, universal consciousness, higher self, or simply your deepest values, this dimension of experience cannot be accessed through more information or increased activity. It reveals itself only when the waters of consciousness grow still enough to reflect what lies beyond their surface. The practice of silence doesn't require dramatic lifestyle changes or hours of formal meditation. It begins with simple acts of intentional stillness, moments throughout the day when you pause the constant doing to simply be. These might last seconds initially, gradually expanding as you develop capacity for deeper quiet. The quality of attention matters more than duration. Full presence for 30 seconds creates more transformation than distracted sitting for hours. Let's explore how this understanding of silence connects to the power of words themselves, how the sounds we speak shape reality, not just conceptually, but energetically, creating ripples of influence far beyond their immediate context. If you've experienced that unmistakable clarity that arrives in moments of genuine inner quiet, write in the comments, "Silence speaks to me." Let's acknowledge together this forgotten language that reveals what noise can never communicate. Words carry a power so fundamental to existence that most spiritual traditions worldwide begin their creation stories with divine utterance. Let there be light. In the beginning was the Word. The universe was sung into being. This universal motif isn't merely poetic metaphor, but points toward a profound truth. Words are not simply sounds we make to communicate ideas, but vibrational forces that literally shape reality. From the beginning of time, words have been more than empty murmurs or passing noise. They are creation itself manifesting through sound. This understanding transforms how we perceive everyday speech. Each word you speak is a package of energy, a concentrated vibration that doesn't simply disappear after being uttered, but continues resonating both in the listener and in the field of consciousness itself. Like a stone dropped in water, your words create ripples that extend far beyond their point of impact, touching realms both visible and invisible, affecting dimensions of reality your eyes cannot perceive. The hidden truth behind words' power lies in their dual nature. They are simultaneously physical and metaphysical, breath shaped by vocal cords creating sound waves, yet also carriers of intention, emotion, and consciousness. When you speak, you're not just exchanging information, you're literally transmitting energy from your being into the world. This explains why identical phrases delivered with different intentions create entirely different impacts. I love you, spoken with genuine feeling versus hollow repetition, aren't merely interpreted differently. They actually carry different energetic signatures. Ancient traditions recognize this reality and developed sophisticated practices around speech. Hindu mantras, Hebrew prayers, Native American chants, and Sufi zikr all work with the understanding that precisely articulated sound creates specific vibrational effects. These weren't primitive superstitions, but technologies for manipulating energy through sound. Practices that modern science is only beginning to explore through research into cymatics, sound healing, and linguistic psychology. The most powerful revelation comes when you recognize that your daily speech constitutes an ongoing creative act. Each word you utter is a seed planted in consciousness. Some seeds yield flowers, others weeds, but all inevitably produce according to their kind. The criticisms you voice toward others don't simply hurt their feelings, they create tangible, energetic barriers. The affirmations you speak don't merely boost confidence, they establish vibrational templates that reality tends to follow. This understanding extends to your internal dialogue as well. The words you speak silently to yourself carry perhaps the greatest creative power of all, since they operate continuously, shaping your perception, your decisions, and ultimately your destiny. When you habitually tell yourself, "I can't," "it's impossible," or "I'm not enough," you're not merely being pessimistic, you're programming limitation into your experiential field. Conversely, words of self-compassion and possibility aren't mere positive thinking, but energetic recalibration. Behind the scenes of conscious communication lies an even deeper dimension, the substructure of language itself. Every language carries unique vibrational qualities that shape how its speakers perceive and interact with reality. This explains why certain concepts exist in some languages, but require paragraphs of explanation in others. Each language creates distinctive energetic pathways through consciousness, highlighting certain aspects of reality while obscuring others. The mindset shift this knowledge invites isn't about becoming perpetually guarded in speech, but developing consciousness around your verbal creations. It means recognizing that careless words aren't merely inconsiderate, but potentially harmful energetic projections. It means understanding that thoughtfully chosen words aren't merely eloquent, but genuinely transformative. Ancient sages treated words as precious gold, knowing that destiny itself resided within them. A practical approach to working with this understanding begins with simple awareness, noticing the immediate energetic effect of different types of speech. Pay attention to how your body feels when speaking complaints versus gratitude, criticism versus appreciation, fear versus trust. These sensations aren't merely emotional reactions, but your system's recognition of different energetic qualities being generated and transmitted through your words. Let's explore how this understanding of words as creative force connects to the wisdom of water, how the fluid, adaptable nature of this element offers profound insights about navigating life's inevitable challenges and transformations. If you've ever experienced the undeniable energetic shift that occurs when carefully choosing your words rather than speaking impulsively, write in the comments, "My words create reality." Let's acknowledge together this subtle but powerful creative force we wield with every utterance. Water offers perhaps the most profound and accessible teacher in our natural world, one that demonstrates its wisdom not through words, but through unceasing movement and transformation. While we often overlook its lessons in our search for more complex philosophies, water silently embodies the very principles that most spiritual traditions strive to articulate. Its teachings aren't hidden in esoteric texts or reserved for the enlightened few. They flow freely before our eyes every day, waiting only for our attention and recognition. The fundamental wisdom of water lies in its remarkable balance between strength and flexibility. Unlike rigid objects that break under pressure, water flows around obstacles, adapting its form without surrendering its essence. Watch a stream encountering a boulder. It doesn't struggle against the immovable object or become frustrated by the barrier. Instead, it simply finds another path, continuing its journey without drama or resistance. This effortless adaptability reveals a revolutionary approach to life's challenges. True power often comes not from forcing your way through resistance, but from discovering the path of least resistance while maintaining your essential nature. Behind the scenes of water's fluid movement lies an even deeper teaching about identity and attachment. Water doesn't cling desperately to any particular form. It freezes into ice, evaporates into vapor, falls as rain, flows as river, expands as ocean, all while remaining fundamentally water. This capacity for transformation without identity crisis offers a profound template for human development. You can evolve, adapt, and respond to changing circumstances without losing your essential self. The question shifts from "how do I preserve my current form" to "how might I flow into new expressions while honoring my core nature?" What makes water's wisdom particularly revolutionary is its demonstration of humble power. Despite carrying ships, carving canyons, and shaping entire landscapes over time, water consistently moves toward the lowest places. It doesn't boast about its achievements or demand recognition for its strength. Instead, it simply fulfills its nature with quiet persistence. This embodied humility challenges our cultural obsession with visibility, status, and recognition, suggesting instead that true impact often happens beneath the surface, through consistent action rather than dramatic gestures. The hidden truth about water's power is its relationship with time. A single drop appears insignificant, yet consistent drops can eventually wear away stone. Water teaches patience, the understanding that meaningful transformation rarely happens instantly, but through persistent presence. The canyon wasn't carved in a day, but through water's faithful return to the same path over centuries. This perspective transforms how we view incremental progress in our own journeys. honoring small, consistent actions as the true architecture of lasting change. Water also embodies profound teachings about purification and renewal. Given sufficient time and movement, water naturally clarifies itself. Sediment settles, impurities dissipate, clarity returns. This natural cycle mirrors our own emotional and spiritual processes, how movement, time, and flow can transform turbulence into clarity without forced intervention. The muddiest water left undisturbed eventually becomes clear again through its own nature. Perhaps most relevantly for our modern condition, water teaches surrender without submission. It yields to gravity without resistance, finding freedom within natural laws rather than fighting against them. This isn't passive resignation, but active alignment, discovering flow by working with underlying principles rather than exhausting ourselves in opposition to them. The mindset shift from control to cooperative participation opens entirely new possibilities for navigating complexity. The practical application of water wisdom begins with simple observation. Notice how water interacts with its environment, how it finds openings where none seem to exist, how it penetrates the densest materials not through force but through gentle persistence. Then consider your own challenges. Where might flexibility serve better than rigidity? Where might patient persistence accomplish what forceful action cannot? Where might surrender to natural flow create more progress than resistance? Let's explore how this fluid wisdom connects to understanding the shadows within ourselves, how the parts we've disowned or rejected contain essential aspects of our wholeness, just as water embraces both sunlit surfaces and hidden depths. If water's wisdom has ever helped you navigate a challenging situation, showing you how to flow around obstacles rather than fight them, write in the comments, "Water shows me the way." Let's acknowledge together this silent teacher that demonstrates its wisdom not through words, but through unceasing transformation. Human consciousness exists in a fascinating duality, a perpetual dance between light and shadow. While we readily identify with our luminous qualities, our kindness, creativity, generosity, and compassion, we simultaneously house aspects of ourselves that remain hidden, even from our own awareness. These shadow elements aren't signs of failure or flaws in your character, but essential components of your wholeness that society, family, or personal judgment has deemed unacceptable. From earliest childhood, we receive powerful messages about which parts of ourselves deserve love and which must be hidden away. When expressions of anger were met with rejection, you learned to bury your rage. When vulnerability led to ridicule, you armored yourself with false strength. When certain desires were labeled inappropriate, you pushed them into the unconscious. Over time, these rejected aspects didn't disappear. They simply moved behind the curtain of consciousness, forming what the great psychologist Carl Jung termed the shadow. The revolutionary perspective on shadow work isn't about eliminating these aspects, but learning to dance with them, to engage them consciously rather than being unconsciously controlled by them. This represents a profound paradigm shift in spiritual development. Rather than pursuing an impossible purity or perfection, authentic transformation involves embracing the full spectrum of your humanity, including parts that seem contradictory or uncomfortable. What makes shadow work particularly challenging is how these disowned elements operate beneath conscious awareness. The shadow doesn't announce itself directly, but appears disguised in your reactions, projections, and recurring patterns. When you feel disproportionate irritation towards someone's behavior, you're often encountering your own disowned qualities reflected back to you. When you repeatedly attract certain difficult relationships, you're witnessing your shadow's magnetic pull. When you sabotage your success at critical moments, your shadow is likely orchestrating the breakdown. The hidden truth about these shadow aspects is that they contain not just pain and difficulty, but tremendous unrealized potential. Your anger, when integrated, becomes healthy boundary setting. Your grief, when embraced, transforms into profound compassion. Your fear, when acknowledged, develops into discernment. Every shadow quality contains a distorted expression of an essential strength, a power awaiting proper channeling. Behind the scenes of shadow integration lies an alchemical process of transformation. When you bring conscious awareness to these disowned aspects, their energy shifts from destructive to constructive. This isn't about indulging negative behaviors, but about recognizing the legitimate needs and wisdom, trying to express through them. The shadow demands not expression, but acknowledgement, not acting out, but authentic engagement. Consider how many remarkable artists, leaders, and visionaries throughout history have channeled shadow elements into creative force. The melancholy that might have been debilitating depression became profound artistic expression. The intensity that could manifest as aggression transformed into passionate advocacy. The sensitivity that might appear as weakness developed into extraordinary empathy. The journey wasn't about eliminating these qualities, but redirecting their power. The practical path of shadow integration begins with simple recognition. Notice when your reactions seem disproportionate to situations. These emotional flares often signal shadow material. Pay attention to recurring patterns in relationships. The same difficulties appearing with different people typically point to unresolved internal dynamics. Listen to what you criticize most harshly in others. These judgments frequently reveal what you cannot accept in yourself. The breakthrough in this work comes when you shift from avoiding these aspects to becoming curious about them. Rather than judging your shadow qualities as enemies to be defeated, approach them as misunderstood messengers carrying important information about your wholeness. This doesn't mean acting on every impulse, but creating internal space where all parts of yourself can be acknowledged without immediate rejection. What emerges through this courageous engagement is a more authentic relationship with both yourself and others. When you're no longer hiding significant parts of your experience from yourself or from the world, relationships develop greater depth and genuineness. When you recognize your own shadow aspects, you become less reactive to them in others, developing true compassion rather than mere tolerance. Let's explore how our dreams, both waking and sleeping, offer a privileged access point to these shadow elements, providing a bridge between conscious awareness and the deeper wisdom of the unconscious mind. If you've ever recognized a disowned aspect of yourself reflected in something that strongly triggers or fascinates you, write in the comments, "I see my shadow." Let's acknowledge together how these hidden aspects of ourselves seek recognition in our everyday experiences. Dreams exist not only in the realm of sleep, but permeate our waking consciousness as well, manifesting through visions, intuitions, and desires that sometimes feel more vivid and compelling than the physical world around us. This understanding transforms how we perceive imagination itself. Far from being merely fantasy or escapism, waking dreams represent a sophisticated language through which deeper aspects of consciousness communicate with our everyday awareness, offering guidance, inspiration, and glimpses of possibilities not yet materialized, but waiting at the threshold of manifestation. Unlike nighttime dreams that arrive unbidden during sleep, waking dreams involve conscious participation, a collaborative dance between your intentional awareness and the deeper currents of your being. These appear as sudden flashes of insight that seem to come from nowhere, vivid mental images that persist despite distraction, intuitive knowings that transcend logical analysis, or passionate visions of possibilities that feel simultaneously unattainable, yet somehow inevitable. The revolutionary perspective on waking dreams is recognizing them not as empty, wishful thinking, but as essential components of reality's creation process. They function as navigational maps, guiding you toward unrealized potential, as messages from your deeper wisdom, communicating through the language of possibility, as seeds of tomorrow waiting to be planted in the soil of present action. Ancient wisdom, traditions across cultures, recognized that physical manifestation begins in the invisible realms of imagination and intention, that the seen emerges from the unseen through a process of progressive materialization. This understanding was captured in the timeless observation that everything now existing in the physical world was once merely a dream in someone's mind. The cathedral began as a sigh in the architect's imagination before the first stone was laid. The symphony existed first as haunting melodies in the composer's inner hearing. The social movement started as a passionate vision in the reformer's heart. The technological innovation appeared initially as an intuitive glimpse of possibility in the inventor's consciousness. The journey from invisible to visible doesn't diminish the dream's reality. It simply transforms its expression from potential to actual. Behind the scenes of human creativity and innovation lies this mysterious dialogue between waking dreams and physical manifestation. The mindset shift involves recognizing that imagination isn't separate from reality, but an essential phase of its emergence, the blueprint that precedes construction, the conception that precedes birth. This perspective fundamentally alters how you engage with your own creative impulses, treating them not as idle fantasies, but as significant communications from your deeper intelligence. What makes waking dreams particularly powerful is their unique access to wisdom beyond ordinary cognition. The rational mind processes information sequentially, analyzing data through established patterns and known variables. Waking dreams, by contrast, can integrate vast fields of information simultaneously, perceiving connections invisible to linear thinking, accessing knowledge that seems to arrive fully formed rather than being constructed piece by piece. This represents a different mode of knowing, intuitive rather than analytical, holistic rather than fragmented, direct rather than mediated. The practical application of working with waking dreams begins with simple acknowledgement, paying attention to persistent visions, recurring themes in imagination, and intuitive nudges that continue arising despite logical dismissal. Rather than categorizing these as irrelevant distractions, approach them as meaningful communications deserving of consideration. Notice which dreams persist over time versus those that fade quickly. Persistence often indicates deeper significance. The transformative power of waking dreams emerges when you move beyond passive reception to active engagement, asking questions of your visions, dialoguing with intuitive knowings, exploring the emotional landscapes of your imagination. This interactive relationship with your waking dreams transforms them from occasional visitors into consistent allies in navigating life's complexity. The question shifts from, "Is this realistic?" to, "What is this dream trying to show me? What seed of possibility is asking to be planted through me?" The hidden truth about manifestation is that waking dreams require both surrender and action. Receptivity to what wants to emerge through you combined with practical steps toward its realization. Either quality alone proves insufficient. Pure receptivity without implementation leaves dreams forever floating in potential. Mechanical action without inspired vision creates hollow achievements lacking deeper significance. The alchemy happens in their integration. Dreams guiding action, action grounding dreams in tangible reality. Let's explore how this understanding of waking dreams connects to the archetypal symbol of the tree of life. How this ancient image offers a comprehensive map for understanding the relationship between invisible roots and visible manifestation, between personal development and universal patterns. If you've ever experienced a dream or vision while fully awake that later proved to be a profound guidance or revelation in your life, write in the comments, "My waking dreams guide me." Let's recognize together this subtle language of possibility that speaks through our imagination. The Tree of Life stands as one of humanity's most enduring and universal symbols, appearing across diverse traditions from Norse mythology's Yggdrasil to the Kabbalistic Sephirot, from the biblical Garden of Eden to the Bodhi tree of Buddhism. This remarkable cross-cultural resonance isn't coincidental, but reflects how this living archetype captures essential truths about existence itself. Imagine an immense tree with roots so deep they touch the earth's heart and branches so high they caress the stars, a living entity that spans all levels of reality simultaneously. What makes this symbol particularly powerful is its embodiment of wholeness. Unlike purely abstract concepts, the tree represents integration through its living structure. Its leaves shimmer with the light of all seasons. Its fruits offer knowledge to those who seek. Its shade provides rest for the weary traveler. The tree doesn't merely symbolize connection, it demonstrates it through its very being, showing rather than telling the fundamental unity underlying apparent separation. The revolutionary insight of the Tree of Life lies in its function as a bridge uniting realms that appear divided. Earth and sky, visible and invisible, material and spiritual, human and divine. Its roots sink deep into darkness and mystery, drawing nourishment from depths we cannot see. Its branches reach toward light and transcendence, extending beyond what seems immediately possible. Between these poles, the solid trunk stands as axis mundi, the central pillar maintaining balance between opposing forces. This bridging function offers a profound template for human development. Just as the tree maintains simultaneous connection with both earth and sky, we too can cultivate groundedness without sacrificing aspiration, embodiment without losing transcendence, practicality without abandoning vision. The tree doesn't choose between depth and height, it requires both. This integration challenges the either-or mentality that fragments modern consciousness, suggesting instead a both-and approach to life's seeming polarities. Behind the scenes of the tree's physical structure lies a deeper teaching about invisible connection. Though we see only what exists above ground, the tree's hidden root system often extends as wide and deep as its visible canopy, sometimes even more extensive. This mirrors how our visible lives represent only a fraction of our total being. With vast networks of unconscious patterns, ancestral inheritance, and spiritual connections operating beneath the surface of awareness. The hidden truth about the Tree of Life is that you yourself embody this living symbol. Your physical body corresponds to the trunk, the visible, tangible aspect of your being. Your psychological and spiritual aspirations represent the branches reaching toward greater possibilities. Your connections to ancestry, to earth, to the collective unconscious form the roots, drawing nourishment from depths you may never fully see, but that sustain you nonetheless. This understanding transforms how you approach personal development. Rather than pursuing growth only in visible achievements or external recognition, you recognize the equal importance of deepening roots, strengthening foundation, processing emotional material, honoring ancestry, connecting with land. The mindset shifts from linear advancement to cyclical integration, from accumulation to circulation, from conquest to cultivation. The practical wisdom of the tree includes profound teachings about timing and patience. A tree cannot be rushed. It grows according to natural cycles of expansion and consolidation, outward growth and inward strengthening. Forced growth without corresponding root development creates instability. This organic timeline challenges our culture's obsession with immediate results and constant productivity, suggesting instead that sustainable transformation follows natural rhythms of action and integration, expression and reflection. The tree of life also embodies remarkable teachings about resilience. Trees don't resist storms by becoming rigid, but flex with winds while maintaining core stability. They shed leaves when necessary without losing identity. They convert damage into new growth patterns, sometimes producing their most interesting features from places of past injury. These aren't merely poetic metaphors, but practical demonstrations of how authentic resilience operates, not through impenetrable defenses, but through adaptive response to challenge. Let's explore how this understanding of integrated development connects to the soul's journey across lifetimes, how our individual existence represents not an isolated event, but a chapter in an ongoing narrative of spiritual evolution and awakening. If the tree of life has appeared as a meaningful symbol in your own journey of growth and integration, write in the comments, "I am the living tree." Let's acknowledge together how this ancient archetype continues to offer wisdom about balancing our earthly roots with our celestial aspirations. The concept of the soul transcends cultural and religious boundaries, representing one of humanity's most persistent intuitions, that we are more than our physical forms, more than our thoughts and emotions, more than our personal histories and memories. Deep within each of us exists something timeless and inextinguishable, a spark of consciousness that predates our current existence and will continue beyond it. This isn't merely poetic metaphor or wishful thinking, but a recognition that emerges from our deepest moments of self-reflection and transcendent experience. Ancient traditions worldwide, despite their numerous differences, converge remarkably on this understanding of the soul as traveler, from Egyptian concepts of the Bi and Kai to Hindu notions of Atman, from Buddhist teachings on consciousness to indigenous perspectives on spirit. Essence, diverse wisdom streams recognize that something within us journeys through multiple experiences, wearing different bodies like garments, accumulating wisdom across eras. What makes this perspective particularly revolutionary is how it transforms our relationship with both time and identity. When you recognize yourself as soul, rather than merely personality, the timeline of your existence expands exponentially. Your current life becomes not the totality of your being, but a single chapter in an ongoing narrative, a specific classroom in a vast educational journey. This perspective doesn't diminish your present experience, but contextualizes it within a much grander unfolding. The soul's journey never follows a predictable linear path. Like a great river, it sometimes flows smoothly through gentle valleys, advancing with grace and apparent ease. At other times, it encounters rapids and waterfalls, challenges, obstacles, and tests that demand transformation. Some passages feel like sailing calm seas with favorable winds. Others resemble weathering storms that threaten to capsize everything familiar. Yet behind the apparent chaos lies profound purpose, for the soul never mistakes its path. It moves unerringly toward awakening, though the route may appear circuitous from limited perspective. This understanding reveals the hidden architecture beneath life's seemingly random events. Encounters that appear coincidental, the stranger who delivers exactly the message you need, the book that falls open to precisely the relevant passage, the unexpected detour that leads to life-changing opportunity, often represent soul-level appointments set long before your current awareness. Relationships that trigger your deepest wounds or catalyze your greatest growth frequently reflect soul agreements made beyond time, opportunities to heal, balance, and evolve through shared experience. Behind the scenes of daily consciousness lies the soul's deeper agenda, not focused primarily on comfort, security, or achievement as personality might be, but on awakening to its true nature and expressing its unique gifts. This explains why following the conventional path to success sometimes feels hollow, while pursuing an unlikely passion brings inexplicable fulfillment. Your soul recognizes its authentic trajectory, even when your mind cannot justify it logically. The most profound revelation about the soul's journey concerns its purpose, not accomplishment in worldly terms, but transformation of consciousness itself. The soul doesn't measure success by acquisitions, achievements, or accolades, but by expansion of awareness, capacity for love, and realization of unity with all existence. From this perspective, experiences typically labeled as failures often contain the most valuable soul lessons, while apparent successes sometimes offer little evolutionary value. The mindset shift this understanding invites isn't about abandoning practical concerns, but developing dual awareness, attending to personality-level responsibilities while maintaining soul-level perspective on their significance. Like an actor who performs their role wholeheartedly while remembering they're not actually the character, you can fully engage with life's dramas without becoming completely identified with them. This perspective transforms how you view life's inevitable challenges. Rather than random misfortunes to be avoided at all costs, difficulties become recognized as intentional. Curriculum, opportunities carefully selected by your soul for specific evolutionary purposes. The question shifts from "Why is this happening to me?" to "What is this experience offering me in terms of growth, healing, and awakening?" This isn't spiritual bypass of legitimate suffering, but contextualizing it within a framework of meaning and purpose. Let's explore how we encounter specific guardians and tests along this soul journey, thresholds that must be crossed to access new levels of consciousness and being, with their own distinctive challenges and revelations. If you've ever experienced moments of recognition that your life is unfolding according to a deeper pattern than your conscious mind could have designed, write in the comments, "My soul guides my journey." Let's acknowledge together the profound intelligence operating beyond our limited awareness that moves us steadily toward awakening. Along every meaningful journey of inner transformation comes a decisive moment, a threshold experience that marks the boundary between your current level of consciousness and the next stage of evolution. This isn't merely a conceptual milestone, but an energetic reality that manifests as a palpable barrier you must consciously choose to cross. After traveling paths of both light and shadow, integration and fragmentation, you eventually stand before a metaphorical door leading to deeper consciousness. This door, however, is never simply wide open for casual passage. Standing before it is an enigmatic figure known throughout spiritual traditions as the guardian of the threshold. This guardian appears in countless mythologies and mystical systems. The Egyptian god Anubis, weighing the heart against a feather, the cherubim with flaming swords guarding Eden's gates, Cerberus at the underworld's entrance, or the riddling Sphinx on the road to Thebes. Behind their varied forms lies a consistent archetypal function, to ensure that only those who have completed necessary preparation can access deeper realms of consciousness and power. This isn't arbitrary gatekeeping, but profound protection, for premature entry into expanded awareness can damage both the unprepared seeker and the sacred territory itself. What makes encounters with the Guardian particularly challenging is that it doesn't present as an external adversary to be defeated through conventional means. The Guardian manifests as a mirror, reflecting everything within you that remains unresolved, your deepest fears, strongest attachments, most cherished illusions, and unhealed wounds. These aren't random tests, but precisely calibrated revelations of whatever specifically blocks your next evolution. The Guardian knows exactly which questions to ask, which buttons to push, which fears to expose. The hidden truth about this encounter is that you cannot deceive or bypass the Guardian. Unlike human authorities who might be impressed by credentials, charmed by eloquence, or fooled by appearances, the guardian isn't convinced by words, intentions, or declarations. It demands authenticity at the most fundamental level, congruence between your words, actions, and being. If you attempt crossing without facing what remains unintegrated, the guardian becomes an impenetrable wall. No amount of spiritual bypassing, positive affirmation, or intellectual understanding substitutes for the actual inner work required. This revelation transforms how we understand spiritual development. Progress doesn't occur through accumulating knowledge, performing rituals, or even practicing techniques, though these may be valuable preparation. The decisive breakthroughs happen when you face precisely what you've been avoiding, when you acknowledge what you've been denying, when you surrender what you've been clinging to, despite its obvious limitation of your growth. Behind the scenes of this archetypal encounter lies a profound paradox. The guardian who appears as obstacle becomes guide when approached with humility and honesty. When you stop fighting or fleeing what's revealed and instead turn toward it with willingness to see, listen, and learn, the very qualities that blocked your path transform into stepping stones. Fear becomes discernment. Attachment becomes commitment. Wounding becomes compassion. The guardian doesn't disappear, but changes function, from barrier to bridge. The revolutionary mindset shift involves recognizing that what appears as external test is actually internal. Invitation, an opportunity to reclaim and integrate aspects of yourself previously rejected, denied, or simply not yet encountered. Every guardian conceals a gift. Every threshold harbors a revelation. Every apparent obstacle contains the exact medicine needed for your next evolution. This perspective transforms spiritual development from linear achievement into cyclical integration, from conquest into relationship. This guardian principle operates not just in dramatic spiritual breakthroughs, but in everyday transformation as well. Career transitions, relationship evolutions, creative leaps, health recoveries, all meaningful passages involve threshold guardians appropriate to their domain. The promotion you desire reveals the guardian of self-doubt. The relationship you seek uncovers the guardian of vulnerability. The creative project you envision confronts you with the guardian of perfectionism. These aren't obstacles to your desires, but invitations to become someone capable of embodying the next chapter of your story. Let's explore how forgiveness becomes one of the most powerful responses to what the guardian reveals. How the willingness to release both self and others from the burden of past wounds creates the essential freedom required to cross life's most significant thresholds. If you've ever encountered a situation where what appeared to be your greatest obstacle actually contained your most important lesson, write in the comments, "The Guardian taught me." Let's recognize together how our challenges often serve as disguised teachers guiding us toward wholeness. Forgiveness represents one of humanity's most profound yet misunderstood transformational paths. A journey not of erasing the past, but of fundamentally changing our relationship with it. Many mistakenly believe forgiveness means pretending harm never occurred, excusing the inexcusable, or reuniting with those who wounded us. The revolutionary understanding is far more nuanced. Forgiveness doesn't change what happened, but it radically transforms what we do with what happened, how we carry the experience forward, and whether it becomes prison or catalyst in our ongoing evolution. This journey inevitably begins in the wound itself, the raw, tender place where betrayal cut deeply, where injustice burned like fire, where abandonment left its hollow ache. Forgiveness doesn't bypass this reality, but acknowledges it fully. The first step isn't releasing, but recognizing, seeing clearly the impact of what occurred without minimizing or exaggerating its significance. This honest reckoning creates the necessary foundation for authentic transformation rather than premature transcendence that later collapses under unacknowledged weight. What makes forgiveness particularly challenging is how wounds become woven into identity over time. The story of what happened to us gradually transforms into the story of who we are. "I was betrayed" subtly shifts to "I am someone who can't trust." "I was abandoned" becomes "I am unworthy of commitment." When pain calcifies into identity, releasing it feels threatening, as if we might dissolve along with our grievances. This explains why many unconsciously resist forgiveness despite consciously desiring its freedom. The wound provides a form of negative certainty that feels safer than the unknown territory beyond it. The profound mindset shift in forgiveness work involves recognizing that what you release isn't your history, but the energetic charge it carries. In your present, the events themselves remain unchanged, permanently inscribed in the timeline of experience. What transforms is your relationship with these events, how much power they hold over your emotional landscape, decision-making processes, and capacity for presence. Forgiveness doesn't change the past. It liberates the future from being determined by what has already occurred. Behind the scenes of this liberation lies a mysterious alchemy. Each act of genuine forgiveness creates space, not emptiness, but openness. The energy previously invested in maintaining resentment, replaying scenarios, or fueling defensive patterns becomes available for creative expression, authentic connection, and purposeful action. This explains why forgiveness often precedes significant breakthroughs in areas seemingly unrelated to the original wound. Relationship patterns shift, creative blocks dissolve, health improves. The freed energy flows wherever it's most needed for your evolution. This understanding reveals forgiveness not as moral obligation or spiritual achievement, but as practical liberation, one of the most direct pathways toward reclaiming your authentic power and presence. The question shifts from, do they deserve forgiveness, to do I deserve the freedom that forgiveness creates? This perspective doesn't diminish accountability or justice, but recognizes that your well-being need not remain hostage to others' acknowledgement or amends. The path of forgiveness, ultimately, leads toward what many traditions recognize as the soul's true home, not a physical location, but a state of being characterized by wholeness, presence, and profound connection with all existence. Just as rivers journey through countless landscapes, sometimes flowing peacefully, sometimes navigating rapids, sometimes disappearing underground, only to eventually return to the vast embrace of the ocean, so too does the soul travel through experiences of all kinds before returning to its essential nature. This return represents not an ending, but a recognition, a remembering of what was always true beneath the accumulated layers of conditioning, wounding, and forgetting. The soul's home isn't a destination reached through linear progress, but a presence uncovered through the removal of what obscures it. In moments of profound forgiveness, authentic creativity, or selfless love, we experience glimpses of this homecoming, brief recognitions of our true nature before the veils of separation descend again. What makes this journey particularly fascinating is its spiral nature. Each return to our essential self happens at a different level of integration and understanding. We don't merely circle back to where we began, but return with expanded awareness, deepened compassion, and greater capacity for presence. Each homecoming contains within it the seeds of the next journey outward, the next opportunity for exploration, challenge, and growth. The end is always also a beginning, the completion always also an initiation. Let's explore how gratitude serves as both complement and culmination of forgiveness, how the practice of appreciation transforms not only our relationship with past wounds, but our entire experience of the present moment and future possibilities. If you've experienced the profound liberation that comes from forgiving someone, or yourself, after carrying the weight of resentment for a long time, write in the comments, "Forgiveness set me free." Let's acknowledge together the mysterious power that comes not from erasing what happened, but from transforming our relationship with it. As we draw our exploration to a close for today, I'm struck by how these ancient wisdom teachings continue to resonate across time, speaking directly to our modern struggles and deepest questions. This knowledge wasn't meant to remain hidden in ancient texts, or whispered only among initiates. It lives most powerfully when shared, discussed, and experienced within community. If this journey through forgotten wisdom has awakened something within you, a recognition, a remembrance, or perhaps just a curiosity to explore further, I invite you to join our growing circle of seekers. Subscribe to this channel to continue uncovering these timeless teachings together. Each video serves as another key unlocking different aspects of this ancient knowledge that has been preserved across centuries specifically for this moment in history. The wisdom traditions always understood that knowledge becomes most powerful when it's both personal and collective, experienced individually but shared communally. That's why I'd love to hear your reflections in the comments below. Simply write, "This wisdom awakened me," if something in today's exploration resonated with your own inner knowing or experience. Your engagement with this content, whether through a simple like or a thoughtful comment, creates ripples that extend far beyond what you might imagine. Each response helps this wisdom reach others who may be searching for exactly these insights in their own journey. There's a natural continuation to what we've explored today waiting for you in our next video. It delves deeper into how these ancient principles can be practically applied to transform your daily experience. Click the video appearing now to continue this exploration together, because the journey of remembering who we truly are is only just beginning. Until we meet again, may you walk with the awareness that you carry within you an ancient flame that has never been extinguished, a wisdom that has been waiting patiently for you to remember.